Hello, welcome to Testable Faith. I'm excited to have on our show today Dr. Bob DiSilvestro. He's a PhD in biochemistry, and we're going to talk about how science points to God being the designer. We're going to look at the origin of life today. Bob, good to have you on the show today.
Glad to be here.
So I know a lot of people, if you just look at what the common narrative out there, the idea is like kind of we've got life solved, we know how life exists, but I get the impression that's not the way you look at it.
No, I was amazed about 3 months ago. I looked at an internet chat, and some people were saying, we pretty much know how life started except for a few minor details, and natural explanations suffice. We don't need God. I don't know where they're getting this stuff because I've looked at expert sites, and they're not saying that. So, for example, I'm just going to read a short quote. Comes from University of Chicago, and it states, "The origin of life on Earth stands as one of the great mysteries of science. Various answers have been proposed, all of which remain unverified." Or here, I'll give you a little something from Harvard. I'm going to slightly paraphrase this because it's got some big words in it. But it says something like the following. A living cell is composed of molecules. Those molecules and cells are reacting, but neither the molecules nor the reactions are individually alive. But the cell, as a collection of reactions and processes, is alive. Understanding how that transformation might have occurred to an assembly of networks with a property called life is the central problem of the field and one of the big problems in all of science.
Well, it's funny you're saying that because I'm reminded of a physics poster that's out there. You know, it's got all the different standard model of particle physics, talks about the gluons and the neutrinos and where everything is. And they've got these four big outstanding problems. You know, what is dark matter? What is dark energy? Why is there more matter than it? These are the problems where we've got ideas, we think we know but these are fundamental areas of research. It sounds a lot like the origin of life falls into that category of a major area of research where there's some known, but a lot left to be discovered there.
Yeah, I mean, the cell organization is mind-boggling because it's not just a collection of molecules. There's information, and there's something about a cell that makes it reproduce and then organize, unless it's a one-celled organism, organize into a living being. And there's something different about life than just chemical reactions. And that kind of order from disorder is not something we see anywhere pretty much in real life. We don't see that kind of order and information and coordination coming from disorder. There are some models out there for origin of life that try to explain how you can get that degree of order from disorder, but they usually involve making some really, really big assumptions that don't really fit actual experimental data. They're just kind of ideas.
So how would you characterize origin of life research at this point? Is it something fairly well known, something where we kind of have the right idea, but there's some big steps we got to fill in, or is it we kind of don't know what's going on here?
I mean, I think even these expert sites just say we really don't know. And each of these sites usually lists some of the big problems. And they'll give little ideas, but reading them, I'm like, wow, that's a whole long way from life. That's just like little snippets of information. But I just think that we're at a point where you really have to say we just don't know what happened if we're invoking only natural explanations. But I think it's worse than that. It's not just we don't know. It's that there's a lot of things we do know about chemistry and do know about biology, and they just don't line up with getting life from no life. So it's not just we don't know. It's that when we look at what we do know, it doesn't seem to work.
So it sounds like there's a lot we don't know about origin of life. You're kind of outlining where, okay, people have bits and pieces, they think it's there. To kind of bring God into that almost sounds like, well, we don't really know what's going on. God seems to be the explanation. I don't think that's what you're saying, but why not?
Yeah, it's kind of a God of the gap sort of approach. Back many, many hundreds of years ago, when science couldn't explain something like, why did it rain today? They would say, well, God made it rain.
Okay.
And now we have meteorology telling us, well, no, there was this pressure system and this cold air hit this hot air, and
Right.
that's why it rained. So some people are saying, well, aren't you kind of doing the same thing? I really don't think that's what I am doing, because this is not about what we don't know. A lot of it is, just like I said, what we do know. We know certain things about chemical reactions. We know certain things about probabilities. We know certain things about chemical machinery. And it just doesn't add up that you can go from no life to life through those mechanisms. So at this point, I would say there's no plausible reason to believe in purely natural explanations for the origin of life. Now, if someone's doing that and doing research in this area, they could keep doing it. But I think I would have to say, and a lot of other people would say, it doesn't look good. It looks like what we know says this can't happen. Sure, we don't know everything yet, but we know a lot of things, and they're pointing to this doesn't work. Now, somebody might say to me, well, but maybe we'll make some new discovery any day now. And I said, well, how do you know that new discovery will say there is a natural explanation? That new discovery might go the other way, too. It might make the situation worse. So I would say at this point, if you got to make a call, I would say right now we know a lot, and what we know says you cannot get life from non-life.
So if somebody's listening here and they're thinking, okay, I find that intriguing. I do think the evidence points to a designer. What are some of the things that you would see in that evidence that says, oh, this is design, not just we don't know what's going on and it can't be naturalistic?
Okay, well, here's one example. In biological molecules, some of them can be left-handed or right-handed.
Right.
The chemical structure is the same in terms of what elements are there and what's hooked to what, but they can have different geometries, like the amino acids in proteins will have tend to be left-handed. The sugar molecules that are in DNA tend to be right-handed.
Right, okay.
So when they're made in nature, they're made by proteins called enzymes. Enzymes are proteins that cause certain reactions to go in a favorable time frame. So when the enzymes make these kind of molecules, like an amino acid or vitamin D, they make it with a certain geometry. When you make these in a laboratory, just without the enzymes, just from chemical reactions, you always get a mixture of left-handed and right-handed. So we don't know pretty much anything that will consistently give you just left-handed or just right-handed, except for when enzymes do it, and enzymes are part of life. So you're kind of a chicken or egg situation there, where you need life to make the lefty or righty molecules, but before life, you don't have anything to make those molecules that way. So that's one. It's called the chirality, and that's one of the big daunting challenges to natural explanations for life.
Well, thanks, Bob. I really appreciate your comments. You know, it really is fascinating how even after all these years, we still don't really understand how the origin of life happened, but it does seem like the more we learn, the more it points to a designer behind it all. Would encourage you to check out the description below. There's a lot of resources that help you explore this topic in far more detail.